You are listening to the Love Unplugged podcast, episode 70. Being deeply connected to your why is so important. It makes all the difference when you are working towards your goals, and it determines if you will actually achieve them or not. My guest shares her story in how experiencing the loss of her young child helped her determine her life's purpose, and how she channels her grief into going after her big goals and helping other families who are going through similar experiences. She is so deeply connected to her why that nothing will stop her from achieving her goals and seeing her son's legacy live on and help others. Hey there, I'm your host, Jessica Fergon, and I am passionate about doing the inner work needed to reach your goals. Let me be your guide as we navigate all the fears and insecurities that surface when it's time to step outside of your comfort zone. Along with my knowledgeable guests and industry experts, I'm here to teach you how to reawaken your life purpose and passion and create the steps to turn your intentions into action. Ultimately, my goal is to empower you to rise above those blocks holding you back and start living a life that you are worthy and deserving of. So come on, it's time to slow down, find a comfy spot with your favorite organic tea, and get inspired. Thank you for tuning in to the Love Unplugged podcast. Hello, loves. Today I am joined by Jessica Janzen. She is an entrepreneur, motivational speaker, and author with her first book, Bring the Joy, being just published. So congratulations on that. After experiencing the loss of her beautiful baby boy, Lewiston, she decided it was time to stop wasting her time and get moving on her big dreams. And she is encouraging others to do the same, which I absolutely love. So in addition to her big goals, she founded the Love for Lewiston Foundation, supporting critical research and medical needs for families fighting spinal muscular atrophy, and her clothing line, the Lewiston Label, all of which is in honor of her son. So I love that. I love how you've connected to this loss that you've experienced and you've turned it into something that is so inspiring. That's so beautiful. So welcome, Jessica. I'm so honored to have you as my guest, and I'm so excited to learn all about your story. But before we start, for those that don't know you yet, I would love for you to share a little bit about who you are.
Thanks so much for having me on. I'm honored to be on your podcast today and be able to share a story. So my name's Jessica, like you said. Today I think if you're asking, people are like, who's Jessica? And I'd be like, I am the biggest gong show with like a capital G. But you take away all the crazy in my life. I'm so fortunate. I am married to the love of my life, Hot Ronnie. We have three beautiful children. I'm living out my dream as an author and a speaker, and someone that aims to motivate and inspire others to follow their dreams. The co-founder to our foundation, the Love for Lewiston Foundation, which is raised over, I think we're almost at $800,000 just in 3 years. And then I started a clothing line because I wasn't busy enough to share my son's life lessons and the life lessons that I've learned. And we plop those on sweatshirts, and it's such a blessing to see that. So those are all the crazy things. But today, if you ask me who I am, I'd say today I feel like a gong show. So a mess and, unperfect just like everybody else, but I'm blessed to have a really cool life.
That's amazing. So I want to start at the beginning. Did you always want to be a mom?
Yeah, there was never a question of not wanting to be a mom. I think, I think I pictured kind of like a fairly typical life where you meet your husband, have kids, do the things. It wasn't like I've been dying to be a mom, but I think it just was kind of like naturally, I just thought like that was the order and the process that you kind of lived your life in.
So when you had children, did that relationship with your husband change in any way? Did you guys experience any challenges? How did you guys overcome it?
So ironically enough, I talk a little bit about this in my book, but right before we got pregnant with our first daughter, we were headed for a divorce. We were at each other all the time. We were constantly fighting. I was working. I will own this. I'm for sure a workaholic. I get like a high out of working really long, hard hours and seeing projects come to life and doing all the things. So, I was working insane hours. I was in sales, when we got married. We were working together, and then I got headhunted and got this incredible offer from a software company. So I took it, traveling, gone on the road, and we were just at each other. And I honestly, a friend asked us this the other day and said, where have you struggled? And I said, it was in the beginning of our marriage, and it was primarily my fault. I wasn't understanding. I didn't read what my husband needed. I was really selfish, and I felt like I was always against him. And we were told I had some kind of reproductive issues and dealing with kind of some female stuff. And so we were told that I probably wouldn't be able to have kids. My doctor at the time said, we'll try naturally. We'll go, test your husband's sperm. You can give it 6 months, and then we can start looking at like fertility treatments and all that. So we were prepared kind of for the long haul. And so we thought this might be a 2 or 3 year journey just to get pregnant. And we went on a trip with his family to Europe, and I don't know, there's something in the water and all the delicious wine in Italy, but we got pregnant on that trip. I didn't know it. And I was a raging hormonal lunatic and found out we were pregnant after we got home. And we were literally on the brink of, not making our marriage work and just saying, listen, like our marriage is cursed. We've had way too many obstacles. It shouldn't be this hard. And we decided to roll up our sleeves. We went and saw a counselor, and the counselor was like, get a real problem. He's like, all this stuff that you guys are dealing with is all very fixable. No one's cheated on anybody. No one's, backstabbed anybody. No one's killed anybody. No one's, committed fraudulent crimes or anything. He's like, you literally just don't understand each other and aren't communicating well. And so we totally flipped the switch on that. And basically a week after that conversation with that counselor, found out we were pregnant with our daughter. And we were like, okay, we're definitely in this, especially bringing a child into the world. And I would say we've been together for 10 years, married for 7 this July. And I truly feel that we just started hitting our stride at the 5 or 6 year mark, where we really have the same vision for our life, the same vision for our marriage, for our kids, for our family. And we really both roll up our sleeves and do the hard work to be the best that we can. And that's revolutionized our marriage.
Now, there's just so much that you just said that I just kind of, I want to unpack so much.
Yeah.
There's so many people that I'm seeing, speaking vocally on social media about the struggles of conceiving a child and whatnot. And I kind of want to dive into that with you. In your experience, what was going on internally? Did you learn anything new about yourself? How were you navigating the feelings of, as a woman struggling to have a child and whatnot? How did you prioritize needs and, not let it become like your sole focus? Like, I feel like so many people kind of get so consumed by it, and then that kind of stops them from being able to conceive because there's just so much stress around conceiving.
Yeah, totally. I think, like, just to be very clear, we were told we were going to have that issue. And my first decision right then and there, and, I had a really amazing doctor, was like, here's the things that we're going to do. Let's just, out of the gate, let's just make sure Ronnie has healthy sperm. I mean, I can't even believe I'm saying the word sperm. I mean, I say vagina all the time, so what's the big deal about sperm? But, let's make sure that your swimmers are super good and actually healthy and you're not shooting blanks. And so we did a couple of those things. But I think I take after my dad in this way. My dad is always like, it is what it is. Like, stressing out about something doesn't ever fix it. Like, when have you been like, well, I stressed out so much that I actually ended up fixing the problem? Like, I don't hear people saying that. And I know in my own life, it's not like I stressed out so much that I fixed it. It's like, no, I took a step back and, we reevaluated. And so we just like, going into it, we were just like, let's just see where this happens. I'm a person of deep faith. And, I was like, hey, God, like, your hands in this, I'm going to trust the process, whichever way it comes. And some people, I don't get infertility. It drives me crazy. I've had so many friends struggle to get pregnant or having insane amount of miscarriages. And it breaks my heart. I don't struggle with either of those, whether it was misdiagnosis. I had endometriosis, I was celiac. Both of those things can actually lead to infertility and be fairly severe. I was so sick in kind of 2010 and 2011. I was hospitalized several times. No one could ever figure out what it was until we got these diagnoses and I started proactively taking care of my health. And that really made a shift. But I am so fortunate that I didn't have to struggle with the infertility piece. I was told that it was, but we just said, like, let's not stress out about this. And we're not going to worry about it because it's out of our control. I think you just have to take proactive steps. And I think that really helped us a lot. And when we, started trying to make a family, we were just like, let's have lots of fun date nights and have really great sex and we'll see what happens. And we were fortunate that our story was one of, we get pregnant very easily, which is how our second son came along after we had our daughter. I was post baby, 4 months, and we had had sex literally, 2 or 3 times. And we're like, oh, that was the time we got pregnant. And we used the pull-out method. And I was like, remember the time you said the pull-out method worked? I was like, it definitely didn't, because I am pregnant. And that was our story. And I believe we're all going to have our own challenges. So infertility wasn't my challenge. It was, being diagnosed with a terminal son.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I do want to talk about your son now. How was that experience for you? Like, what did that look like in your world?
I think, to get the full details, it's easy to read on our website on Love for Lewiston or on my site or in the book. But the long and the short of it is, just like I said, we had our daughter. 4 months later, I got pregnant. Our children were born 13 months apart, whatever the math is there. So I literally had a 1-year-old. She had just turned 1. A few weeks after that, I gave birth to our second, which is our son, Lewiston. Healthy pregnancy. I taught fitness through it. Nothing, we thought was wrong. My mom came. She was so great. She helped. She went home, and a few weeks later, we packed up our family and we, vacationed in Winnipeg. I joke, I'm like, who likes to vacation in Winnipeg? My family does. And we were out there for a family vacation, and Ronnie had said, hey, you stay and I'm going to come back home earlier. My parents had, we were buying their old SUV off of them. And so he had decided to drive it home. I was going to fly back with a friend, a week or 2 later. And I wanted the extra help. And Lewiston was very colicky. He was a colicky baby. And so always needed to be held, bounced, and rocked constantly. And I was like, oh man, I was exhausted. You have these 2 young kids, basically under a year. You're trying to figure it all out. And so a friend suggested going to a chiropractor. Go to the chiropractor for Lewiston's stomach and literally get told, go straight to Children's in Winnipeg. Call my mom. We go to the Children's Hospital. He had labored breathing, was really modeled. And honestly, I wasn't worried, was not panicked. I was like, probably just precautionary. I'm going to go there. I'm going to sit all day, waste a day. We've all had those experiences when you sit and, in the end, it's like nothing. And they're like, oh, okay, no explained issue. Hopefully you get better. And, you do. And when we got to the hospital, after 2 nurses looked at him, I got rushed into the resuscitation room, and it was MRI, CT, cardiology, neurology, geneticists, nutritionists, you name it, they were there. And they never found out what was wrong with him in Winnipeg. We got released from the hospital. And when we came back to Calgary, eventually, we decided to continue the follow-up because he was really limp. He just had no tone in his muscles. He just kind of fell floppy. And so we continued to do investigative work here. And in August, so he was about 2.5 months old at the time. In August, they said, we're really sorry, but your son, we believe, has a rare genetic disease. It's called spinal muscular atrophy. And we also don't think he's going to make his first birthday. There's no cure, no treatment, no hope. It's literally a waiting game. And ironically enough, there's choice words that I like to use to refer to this, but I had spent the last 10 years of my life, or 9 years of my life, volunteering and helping and showing up for a family in town that had 2 children with this exact same rare genetic disease. So totally, ironic, fluke, crazy, whatever you want to call it. And so I was actually very familiar with the disease. What I wasn't familiar with was the different types, and that our son had the most severe form. And unfortunately, because there was no treatment, no cure, no hope, only clinical trials at the time, he ended up passing away November 22nd, 2016. So he was just shy of his 6-month birthday. And we spent the rest of his life in the hospital, ICU, the unit, and then eventually the hospice that we have here in Calgary.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. I can't even imagine what that would have been like to go through.
It is, honestly, it is the worst thing that you would ever have happen to you. And watching somebody, struggle daily to breathe, struggle daily to have, their life. It was horrible and hard and traumatic and all of the things. But I truly look at it as one of the biggest blessings, because it has made me a better mom, a better wife, a better friend, made me more compassionate. And my son has given me my life's purpose, which is to be light for those that are stuck in the darkness. And I think some people live their whole life wondering what their purpose is. And I've been fortunate that at, 33 years old, I'm now almost 36. I know what I want to do and how I want to carve out the rest of my life. And I know the purpose that I'm fulfilling, and that so many people struggle to find that. And I got the gift of that. It literally was like typed out on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. And so I don't want to waste my days.
Amazing. So what was that healing process like for you? How did you get through that? Like what stages did you move through, and how long did you give yourself to deal with it?
I'm still dealing with it to this day. We're recording this podcast in a time when there's a ton of turmoil, a ton of hurt, a ton of grief, a ton of mourning in our world right now. And, you get accused for not, I have a social platform. I treat it with great responsibility. And if you say something, there's always someone with an opinion. And I had a follower actually graciously enough, kind of stand up for me. And she said, like, give this woman some grace, just because I hadn't responded to what's happening in our community around Black Lives Matter. And I hadn't made a response yet to it. And it was because we had just finished this insane fundraiser that we had hosted on my Instagram channel. And I literally had not chosen to watch any of the George Floyd stuff. I hadn't made space for it. And I was running at such a fast pace. I hadn't taken time to slow down. And I don't watch the news. I don't turn that stuff on. I stay in my lane, do my thing. So it wasn't something I was educated on. And a lady said, like, give this girl some grace. She literally just finished celebrating her dead son's birthday and raising money for other dying children. And so when you ask about grief and getting through that, I mean, I'm going to grieve for the rest of my life. When his birthday comes around on November 22nd, the day that he passed away, those are significant days. And then even just the simple things when, I'm walking my daughter to school and then I see, someone, or I'm getting together with friends and I see somebody whose son is the exact same age as my son. I'm like, oh, I wonder what it would have been like to hold his hand. And then, some of those moments will break you and, cause heartache and turmoil. And so the grieving process, it is a freaking roller coaster, or like trying to surf in the ocean where you're trying to read the waves and some are bigger than others, some are easier. And so I truly just take my grief one day, 1 hour, sometimes 1 minute, sometimes at a time. I have an amazing support system around me of girlfriends that I know that rather than doing this alone, I reach out and I say, hey, it's really dark. I'm having a really hard time. Can you come walk alongside me? And that has been a really big blessing. I go to a therapist. I have regular conversations about it with my husband, and we say our son's name. They say that a person only truly dies when we stop saying their name. There's the death of the body, but there's the death of the person is only when we stop saying their name. And so we say the name Lewiston daily in our household. And that helps keep me upright. It helps make me feel like his life still matters and is important. And he truly has this insane legacy where we've been able to bless and help and walk alongside other families whose kids are battling this same disease and change their outlook and be able to help bless them and show up in some ways when they're, have financial burdens or looking for treatment or medical equipment that isn't funded. And so we've really been able to channel our grief into something really positive. And for me, that has really helped, that I've had this focus on being able to give back and that there has been meaning. A guy by the name of David Kessler writes this book on grief, and he wrote a book with another author. And then several years later, his own son passes away, and he had to rewrite the book and add in an additional chapter because he actually then knew grief so true. And that was the stage of grief. And there's no order that the stages go in, but I think being really able to find meaning in it, knowing that I'm living my life's work and living on purpose and creating a legacy for my son has been the key pillars in me being upright and living a joyful life.
Amazing. So you talked about having, the support system around you, somebody to talk to, so like a therapist or a counselor and whatnot. Were there any other tools that helped you through that healing process that you put in place?
Totally. I shower every damn day, sometimes twice a day. I mean, give it like out of 365 days, there might be 1 or 2 days that, whatever you don't, but I get up and I move my body and then I get into the dang shower. I shower every day. Because I don't want to feel grimy, yucky, or not awake and fully alive. And part of that is having a shower, and it wakes you up and it sets you up for the day. The other thing is I make my dang bed every day. Now, we have a rule in our household: the last person gets out of bed has to make it. Or if my husband and I are still getting ready together, then we'll make it together. But the bed gets made every day because that is the smallest step in accomplishing something that makes you feel like I've accomplished something and now I have momentum to carry forward into the rest of the day. Those things sound so stupid. You're like, this girl lost her son and she's telling me the way that she grieved is by washing her body, like having a shower and making her bed. And I would say yes 100 times over. And I believe those skills are good if you want to be successful in life and you want to grow, and push yourself to be the best that you can be, because those small little habits, those daily habits, are key in setting you up for how the rest of your day goes. And then when I walk into my room, I feel accomplished, and, I get to get into a freshly made bed every night. And so those are like the simplest of things. Moving my body was super huge. Thankfully I have this incredible group of girlfriends that will be like, okay, we haven't come for a workout. Like, let's go move, or, hey, let's get together and, sweat at a class. And so moving your body, I mean, it's like move your body, change your mind. Rachel Hollis always says that. And there's proof that you change the endorphins. And then the other thing that's really been key for me is a gratitude practice and looking for the joy starters. And so the joy starters is something that I talk about in my book and when I speak on stage, but I believe we have these things that like will spark joy, and they'll start a joy kind of, trickle effect of like, where you have dominoes, and it's like when you start looking for them, they just start showing up. And so for me, a joy starter is I have these beautifully handcrafted mugs from a local artisan here. They make my coffee taste better. And I make sure that I make my French press and I have my hot coffee in this beautiful hand ceramic mug because it starts joy for me. It's a joy starter. And then those little things you can look for in the rest of your day. You know what I mean? So it's like, is it sitting outside in the sun for 5 minutes and just letting the sun, touch your skin and pausing? Is it taking your kids to the park after a really long, crazy day and pausing and not having your phone with you? So there's all these little things that really make a difference, and those small things compound. Because I've established, I think, these really healthy habits, it's helped the grief. So on the days when I feel like I can't get up off the floor, and they still do happen, I will reach out to friends, I'll grab my journal, and I'll start just cultivating those habits.
I totally agree with you that those little things in the morning that set you up for success for the rest of the day make such a huge impact. I never used to make my bed. Like, there was just no way I was going to do it. And then
Yeah,
I started doing it, and there's something so satisfying about it, but it just sets the tone for your day.
it does. And there's a guy, I can't remember his name, but he was an admiral and he was giving a commencement speech. And I watched it, and he was like, this speech, if you Google it on YouTube, it's like make your bed daily or something like that. And it took off like wildfire. And it's like literally you're like, changing your bed can change your life, or sorry, making your bed can change your life. And you're like, yeah, it actually can. And it's literally, Atomic Habits is an amazing book that I read. I've audioed and read it this last year, and it's the smallest habits that make the biggest impact. So that's where you can focus. And I think those small habits of like not sitting and feeling sorry for myself, not drinking every night, not turning to drugs, just one time to make it feel better. That having those daily habits of, keeping me upright have led to, the grief feeling a lot easier, and being able to not feel swallowed whole by it.
I love that. So, what does a typical day look like for you? Having these businesses, you have a blog, you have the foundation and the clothing line and whatnot, and then you have a child and a family and like a relationship with yourself that I'm sure you're trying to nurture as well. How do you manage and navigate a day and making sure that you are showing up for all these areas of your life?
Um, It's honestly the last 3 weeks have just been such an utter gong show that it's like people ask me this question all the time. And I literally was just, I said before I came on here, I was just writing and kind of doing some reflecting. So here's the thing. God wired me a certain way that the pace in which I run is not probably normal or typical. It's very, like, I'm probably like a 1% that has the amount of energy and drive that I do. And so right there, I think that just to set the tone, like, if you ask my husband, it is exhausting being married to me, because the pace and the intensity in which I operate is not normal. It just isn't. Now, that being said, we have all these things, and I'm looking at how do I simplify, how do I streamline, and how do I make this work? And I will fully say this right now. I don't do stuff that I can outsource. So if I can outsource it, I will outsource it. And so a typical day, I'll walk you through this, and then I'm going to share the secrets of how I think I can do what I do. And it doesn't always work. I'm in a season where I'm like, okay, something's got to give. Like, there's a lot on my plate right now. So a typical day for me starts between 5 and 6 a.m. And in that time, I make a French press, and I will do a gratitude practice. I use the Start Today journal from Rachel Hollis. I named my third child Hollis. So if anyone follows me, they know how much I enjoy and value Rachel and Dave Hollis and the team and the work that they do. So I do the Start Today journal, which is like, I do 5 gratitude things, and they're not like, I'm thankful for my house, I'm thankful for my family. I get really dialed into very specific moments. Like, I'm thankful that Jen was able to, clean through my emails and get them down from 118 to 35 unread emails. Like, that's how specific I become. And then I write out my 10 dreams, so I know what I'm focusing on and why I'm working so hard, and keeping those at the forefront of my day every day is like, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. There's certain experiences that I want to give my children, and things that my husband and I want to accomplish. And so having that really sets the tone again for it. Then I'll typically move my body before the kids get up. For right now, it's either like a run or a power walk, followed by, maybe a weight workout if I can. And if not, I call it what it is, and you make a go of it. I used to be able to get a class in sometimes, but obviously all the boutique little spots in Calgary aren't open yet. So I'm looking forward to that again. And then I'm with the kids. So I'm getting myself ready, getting the kids ready. My son, my little 1-year-old, wakes up. I get him a bottle, get him set up, and then get my daughter up and going. And then we have a nanny that comes to our house, and she gets here by 9. And there's probably like a half-hour transition period where it's like, we're cleaning the kitchen, we're talking about what needs to happen for the day, making sure, everybody needs to be where they need to be. And then I'll hit the ground running. I typically won't take any meetings for the morning. And then I'm working on emails, planning, troubleshooting, whatever it is I'm working on, whether it's for the foundation, the apparel company, or for the kind of the blog and book. And then whatever it is, like for the rest of my day, at 5 o'clock, our nanny leaves. And right now she's not even working full time. So she's leaving a little bit earlier. And I'm trying to just like get out of the house and take the kids to the park or do something outside, because I have a terrible habit of like, I can get them to watch a show and I can just finish these last minute emails or whatever it is. So we get out of the house, we'll go do something fun. We'll do dinner as a family. My husband and I will, sometimes he cooks, sometimes I cook, sometimes we both cook, tag team it, do something fun. And then it's literally like you get the kids to bed. And then typically in the evenings, I do work a lot, and it's a big, bad habit I have because I do love it so much. And then I try to get to bed as early as possible and trying to read. I don't consume shows. I don't watch the TV, and I don't typically watch Netflix. The last show I allowed myself to watch was Ozark. I got into the season. I crushed it in 3 days, and then I put my phone away and said, no more Netflix. And so I'm very intense, pretty scheduled and calculated. And like I said, I outsource. So the biggest successes for me, where it allows me to do what I do at the pace I do it, is we have childcare, and our childcare comes to us. So I don't have to worry about packing up the kids and racing out the door. And like literally our nanny is a part of our family. She's incredible. She does our laundry. She does our grocery shopping, and she can meal prep for us. And I can literally say, hey, can you make me, a kale salad for lunch? And she'll prep it and bring it up to my desk. And so because I have that help from her and she does so much of the kids stuff, like she's so fantastic that she'll be like, oh, I've combed through the children's clothes and I've taken out all the ones that they no longer fit into and, categorize them and organize them. And so all the small things that are time consuming, I don't have to worry about, which is so amazing. And then I also just this year added a virtual assistant on, and she does everything from helping me with uploading my book to Amazon and Audible to emails to scheduling stuff to outreach. And those two things help me run at the pace I do. And then last but not least, everything we do for the foundation, we have this insane group of friends that truly believe in what we're doing. And I can throw up my white flag and say, hey, I'm in the thick of it. And someone's like, okay, I'm coming over. I'm helping you with emails. Okay, I'm reaching out to donors. Okay, I'm on this. And we have committees and the group of people that help us with our foundation. No one expects anything in return. Everyone volunteers their time. And there's probably a group of about 20 or 30 people that are consistently giving of their time. And that's how we're able to do what we do.
Wow.
And I have an amazing husband. I should give him credit because my husband goes above and beyond. Like he cooks, he cleans, he does the yard work. Like he's in all the details. We call him Hot Ronnie. He's amazing. He's patient and he sees the vision and why I'm doing what I do. And so that he's really supportive in giving me the space and the freedom to do it.
You have this entire support system around you that is just there to help you focus on what you need to focus on.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
I love how organized you are through the day.
I wouldn't say I'm organized. And honestly, we're just like, I get pulled in a lot of different directions because it's like, the clothing line or the foundation or a donor needs you or, can you do this interview for the book or blah, blah, blah. And so we're getting even more calculated and dialed where we're blocking sets of time in my schedule where it's like, this is the only time that I'm going to be doing this just so that I can stay focused and time block and have kind of that productivity and some consistency there. So I'm not jumping from task to task because I still don't feel like I'm as efficient as I would like to be. But it's a learning process and I'm learning what works for a family, what works for, the growth. And actually now having my book launched is massive because I was writing it for 6 years. So it's constantly changing and evolving, but lots of good people along the way. And then I outsource. I used to like courier or like go pick up our clothing and, do handheld so many pieces of it. And I've had to let go of the hand holding and just trust other people. And so we've got, I'll outsource our courier. I'll get somebody else to do the small details. And it's made a big difference.
So you talked a little bit about the foundation and the clothing line, and I kind of want to dive a little bit deeper into that. How has creating these two businesses, or well, not really businesses, but how has it helped you heal?
Oh my gosh, without them, I don't know where I'd be. So the foundation is a registered charity here in Alberta. We're waiting on our registered charitable status so we can issue tax deductible receipts. It's been a gong show, but it's amazing. And so we have a board of board members and we're really proud of the work that we do. And then the Lewiston label is a corporation. We set it up as such and we run it separately and it gives a portion of the proceeds back towards the foundation and the work that it does. And I think in terms of grieving and channeling it, I think it goes back to like finding the meaning of like why I'm doing what I'm doing or why I do what I do. I don't think any of us want our lives to be wasted. And I really do believe we're all designed for a set purpose and like what a blessing that I know what mine is. And, I continue to get to live that out. And so for the clothing line, all these like major life lessons happen for us with our son. We have this one sweatshirt and it says run towards the roar. And it means run towards the things that scare you the most. And it's a reference from a pastor. His name's Levi Lesko out of Montana. He lost his daughter to an asthma attack a couple of days before Christmas. And he speaks about how lions hunt. And he talks about how, a lion will chase its prey into the big daddy lion with a mane, and the daddy lion will roar, and you hear this roar. It can be heard from like 5 miles away. And it's the female lion that's chasing its prey. And all of the time, the prey, rather than running towards the roar, they circle back and run away from it because it sounded scary. And they would have found freedom if they had kept running because the male lion's probably not going to kill them. It's the female lion that will do the work. And because they circle back, they get clobbered up. And I was just like, whoa, that powerful lesson of like, what if we ran towards the things that scared us the most instead of circling back just because it got hard or it got loud or it got uncomfortable or it was new territory that we had never been in? What if we actually ran right towards that? And that right there, those are the moments that will be on our highlight reel when we die. Those are the moments that people will talk about at our funeral. Those are the things that we will be remembered for. And I just knew I wanted, it's like, how do you share that with people? And I mean, I'm not the first person to plaster, sayings on sweatshirts, and I won't be the last. And so it just felt like this simplest way to honor Lewiston and give him a voice that will continue to live on. And it has literally been such a blessing to give him that platform, and such a blessing when people say, hey, I was really struggling with this and I heard this saying and I bought this sweatshirt and it's my favorite thing to wear. We really want to encourage people to move their bodies and do all that. And all of these sweatshirts kind of have this significant meaning, and it's been such a blessing.
I love that. And I love that run towards the roar. That is so perfect. And I think it's so true that you should always run towards whatever makes you feel uncomfortable, whatever makes you feel scared. Obviously, as long as it's not an endangerment.
Totally. But it's like you're starting the new business, or you're, trying to start the blog, or you're starting a new podcast, or you're wanting to quit your job because, you've been working on your side hustle for 3 years and you think that you can make a go out of it. But so often we let fear take over, and then we miss out on the biggest blessings. And for me, I believe the biggest moments of joy.
100%. I love that. And that brings me to my next question about your book. So I want to hear how the process has been creating this book. So you said you've been writing it for 6 years.
Yep.
What have you been writing about? What is it about? What does it include? What do you share through it? And then I want to talk about this unique way of publishing that you did.
Oh, totally. So I started writing the book when kind of Ronnie and I started, working on our marriage, or whatever you want to call it. And we started obviously working on our marriage, and we're going for it. And I had to pursue my husband and confess my undying love to him 3 times before he even would start dating me. And I was kept following these nudges. And so for me, I believe the nudges are coming from God. I say in the book, you might believe that it's Buddha or your great aunt Zelma, or, whatever, the universe, you do you. But I was listening to these nudges, and every time I kept getting nudged to pursue my husband, and I didn't quite fully understand it, but I kept responding to them. And I was like, listen, I love you. I'm in love with you. And he's like, no, that's fine. We're just friends. I'm like, no, I'm going to marry you. I love you. And he's like, whoa, we're just friends. Chill out. And through that, we then, beautiful relationship, our story of how we got back together. He broke up with me even after my 3 times of pursuing him. We had this crazy break, get back together. Here we are, married 7 years later. But I really want to write about the nudges and pursuing it. So it had started as a love story. Well, started writing it, a couple of chapters in, have a kid, have our second child right after our first kid, and then he gets sick. And then this platform and this, as we started sharing on social media, bring the joy. And so I just share about the nudges we get, the choices we have, and the joy that it brings. And I believe it's really relatable messages. And I tell in my book, I walk people through all the stupid things I've done. And it's almost conversational. It's a really easy read. Majority of people that have read it have been like, I couldn't put it down. I read it in 10 hours. I put 2 shows on for my kids because I had to finish. And even, blessed be our sweet neighbor. My parents grew up on a farm. So, one of our farm friends, back in Manitoba, his name's Doug, and he hasn't read since high school. He's in his late 60s. And he's like, I'm on chapter 4. I haven't read a book since high school. So whatever that is, 50 some years, hadn't read a book in 50 years. And he was on chapter 4, and he says this is the best thing and I can't put it down. And I think it's just a really relatable book. And I share the stories and the journeys and the challenges and the heartaches and the amazing moments that I've had, and the tools that I've used to bring the joy in my own life, because I truly want other people to live a joyful life.
I love that. And I think so many people are going to be able to relate to what you share through the book, because I think a lot of people experience similar things as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Where is it available?
You name a place and it should be there. So fortunately enough, you can buy it on Amazon. It's on Amazon Prime right now, which is amazing. And it was trending as one of the best sellers when we recently launched it, which was really exciting and cool.
Wow.
So Amazon, and even I've heard Amazon Mexico was carrying it, which was like super rad. So Amazon is the easiest place to get it. And then we have it on our website, Love for Lewiston. You can get it at Barnes & Noble, and it very soon will be on Audible. It's just in the final stages of approval, and it will be on Audible. And then our website, which is the lewistonlabel.ca, you can buy a copy there and support us directly. But it's available. We're working on getting it into chapters in Indigo. And like I said, you can order on Barnes & Noble if you're in the States. So we've tried to get it everywhere. We're still working on that. It's been hard because a lot of these stores have been closed, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, the publishing process, I saw that you had gone about it a different way than usual. And how did you determine that that's the route that you wanted to take? Like, why did you decide on that?
So first off, I'm a nobody in the publishing world, and I was told that by several people, which makes sense. I was like, well, what do you mean? I have, 14,000 followers. Like, how is that nobody? And you're like, 14,000 people will buy my book. I mean, it doesn't quite work like that. So I've had a few friends write books. I mean, the thing is, we're living in 2020. Anyone can write a book. Anyone can get it printed. There it is. My goal when I wrote this was for it to become a New York Times bestseller. And I'd started writing the book, but here's the thing. I graduated from high school with like a grade 6 to 7 reading and writing level. Writing is not my natural talent or what I'm good at. I suck at it. I'm horrible. If you look at my Instagram posts, I'm usually missing words. The grammar's atrocious. If you get a text message from me, half the time it doesn't even make sense. And so I knew I needed guidance in the process, and I really wanted a strong editing team. In 2017, just after my son passed, me and 2 girlfriends went down to LA for the weekend. They're like, hey, we know you're not doing well. Let's change the scenery for you. Let's head to LA. We go to LA, we do like the Soul Cycle class and the expensive brunch and the expensive lunch and blah, blah, blah. We're in Venice Beach, and we're on Abbot Kinney. And I just finished reading Unreasonable Hope by Chad Beach. He's a big pastor there at a mega church in LA. And we literally walk into this coffee shop, and we could have gone into any coffee shop. There's probably 50 coffee shops around us. And I walk in, and there is Chad Beach sitting on a chair. And my friends are like, what's going on? And I'm like looking, I'm frantic. And I finally just I walk away from them. I don't even tell my girlfriends what I'm doing. I'm like, are you Chad Beach? And he's like, yeah, I am. I'm like, oh my gosh, my name's Jess. I'm this Canadian. I just finished reading your book. I just had gotten a tattoo the night before in LA from a book that his best friend had written, which is I got Run Towards the Roar from Levi Lesko, that tattooed on my arm. So we're telling all these stories, and literally God's timing and how we brought people together was insane. Levi Lesko, who's from Montana, happened to be in LA that weekend speaking. He was going to meet Chad Beach at this coffee shop. We were planning on attending Chad's church tomorrow. And 2 of my girlfriends don't go to church on the regular basis. When I travel, I love to go check out churches. That's my thing, what I do. And I was planning on going, and my girlfriends walk over. Now they're coming to church. We're talking with Chad. So the next day we show up at Chad's church, and we get to have a conversation. And I said, hey, Chad, I know that you did such a great job in writing your book. I'm writing mine. Do you have any suggestions? Hadn't even close to finish it. And he said, you need an agent. And he goes, you got an agent? I said, no, I didn't even know that there was literary agents and, agencies. And he said, you need Esther. Esther's my girl. I was like, okay, I guess I need Esther. He set up an intro email with the Fed agency, which is who I've published with. And they said, hey, we can do a book proposal, to all of the big publishers, but they probably won't send anything your way. And if they do, it'll probably be really small. One of the other options is you can self-publish, and then you own all the rights, and what you make on it is what you make on it. It's a very expensive way to do it. I'm probably in over $95,000 to make this book come to life, because I paid for 5 rounds of intense editing with their team. And I wanted that and needed that. And so the book came to life. They did the cover design. They got the ISBN number. And I chose to have it printed in Manitoba, my hometown, by a really great local company. And then we decided to ship out the books. And I did an Indiegogo campaign to fund this massive bill. We're still not quite paid off yet. I look forward to when we are. But I self-published it with a team of professionals. And it was such a therapeutic process. And I will say the first attempt that we did, when I got the first round of edits back from the team, I was going to throw my computer against the wall. I thought I had lost, my $55,000 investment with them because it was so bad. And then we went back to the drawing table and I was like, this is the style that I want. Like they made it really polished and really professional. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. This girl ain't polished. She ain't professional. I'm real, I'm raw, I'm authentic. And that's how we changed the style. And they really brought the words to life. And then they took care of grammar and spelling and editing. And it ended up being the best process. And my husband read the draft I gave to them before. He read the draft, the very kind of rough draft. And then he just read the final product. And he's like, wow, I really see why you chose the path that you did. And like, what a blessing to really have it come to life. And we're just so proud of it. Yeah. So it's complicated. It's long, but yeah, it was a trip to LA. It was meeting Chad Beach. It was this agency. And I had, people in Canada offer to publish and edit. But I just knew that God had, ordained that meeting. And I knew that there was purpose in that. And so I just stuck the course. It was way more expensive, but I do believe in the long run, it will pay off.
Yeah. I love that. That's awesome. Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens in its due time. And it's just being aware, right? Because you could have easily just not even done anything, right? When you saw him, but that opened up the door to everything else, just taking that step.
Well, and it was totally like the nudge on my heart, like go over and say hi to Chad Beach, go over and introduce yourself. And that's so scary. But rather, I literally the night before had just gotten Run Towards the Roar tattooed on my forearm. So I literally looked down at it and I'm like, just walked right over. And I'm like, what's the worst that I have to lose? A, it isn't Chad Beach and I'm super embarrassed. And I'm like, oh, sorry, you look like this guy. Or B, he's like, bug off. Like, please leave me alone, you crazy Canadian. And thankfully he opened me with, big arms and, connected me to the incredible team at the Fed agency. My husband set up a meeting. After we did a phone call, he surprised me for my birthday with an in-person meeting with them in Austin, Texas. And that really got the ball rolling. And then we signed our contract with them shortly after that. And yeah, here we are.
It's amazing. I love this. All right. So last question. If anybody wants to learn more about you, where can they connect with you? Where do you hang out the most?
I hang out the most on Instagram. That's my platform of choice. I'm on a pause at this very moment because I've had a really rough 3 weeks with launching the book, like rough in like the best way possible, all of these great things, but I'm burnt out. I've gotten some, really strong criticism from people. And so I've paused there probably just for a few days, but just to reset. But Instagram is where I hang out. It's where I post. It's where I spend time in my DMs. And then our website, we have one, it's called bringthejoybook.ca, and then jessicajanzen.ca, and then loveforlewiston.ca and the Lewiston label. Like we're all over the place. They all kind of link to each other, but that's where I'm at. But if you want to follow my daily kind of hustle and grind where I take you on the full journey, take you on the high highs, the low lows, I cry, I wear makeup, I don't wear makeup. I usually never put a filter on my stories. And you want to watch my cute kids grow up, that's a place to find me.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jessica, for taking the time to share your story, but for also giving us such valuable advice on how you can manage the demands of motherhood, a relationship, a career, foundations, all that, and then how to heal from experiencing the loss of a loved one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, thank you. It's always a pleasure to be able, and an honor and a privilege to be able to share a story. And my prayer is every time that I get a chance to open up my big mouth and share all the stuff is that someone would feel like they're not alone or stuck in the darkness, and that there's hope for them too. And the joy is coming. I dedicated my book to anyone that was stuck in darkness. I said, know that the light is there and that the joy is coming. Do the hard work, stay the course, show up, be consistent, and you'll be surprised at how your life will change. And then make sure you make your bed. That'll change your life.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time today. I love chatting with you.
Thank you.
I'm Jessica, and thanks for tuning in today to Love Unplugged, the podcast. If there are any questions or topics you'd love answered on the show, head on over to www.projectloveco.com and share your request with me. If you haven't yet, go to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast and share it with a loved one. Your feedback means the world to me, and the community we've created is what fuels our discussions here. After all, this is all for you. Join me next time for another unplugged conversation.